So the big report is finally here, the preliminary assessment of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Office of the Director of National Intelligence Unclassified Report, 25th of June 2021. I've looked at the report, gone through it a couple of times, but what I want to do now is go through it again and kind of give my take on it. Now, long story short, I'm fairly happy with the report. I think it kind of more or less says what I've been saying for a long time, that there's a bunch of different things, we don't have enough information, there's always going to be things that are unidentified, there are things like birds and balloons that are going to show up on sensors, and we should try to figure out what these things are. And, no evidence of aliens, no great evidence of amazing technology. But not everyone agrees with that assessment, so what I want to do is go through the report and try to explain what I see in the report and what justifies that assessment. Okay, so page 2, scope and assumptions. This basically tells us who does the report and where they got all the information from. The only important thing on this page really is this assumption at the end. It says, various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments. But some UAP may be attributable to sensor anomalies. Basically, that means that most of the time the radar works and the ATFLIR system works, but sometimes it does not. And when it does not, that may create a report of a UAP. Next page. Page 3, the executive summary. Now, this is kind of the important page. It has all the most important information and conclusions. And some of the later stuff, even though it should be more detailed, actually omits some of the stuff that was listed here. So you really need to refer to this page whenever you look at something that comes later in the report. Okay, executive summary. The limited amount of high-quality reporting on unidentified aerial phenomena hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. So they're basically saying they don't have enough information to know what the nature of the problem is, or if the UAP means something. I'm not sure what that really means, like aliens meaning something. Okay, the UAP task force considered a range of information on UAP described in US military and intelligence community reporting, but because the reporting lacked sufficient specificity, ultimately recognized that a unique tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data for analysis of UAP events. As a result, the UAPTF concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 2004 and 2021, which is basically meaning they started with the Nimitz encounter and went up to the present day. The majority of which are the result of this new tailored process to better capture UAP events through formalized reporting, which is good. That means that the majority of the reports here are actually quite high quality, where they've standardized how the reports were taken. Now, this is an interesting point. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers, and visual observations. Now, this most of the UAP reported actually is 80. It's 80 out of 144, which is 56%, which is a bit more than half. So I think saying most of is perhaps a bit of an exaggeration, because that means that a bit less than half of them were not registered across multiple sensors. They were just registered on one sensor, or they were just an eyewitness account. So we could perhaps say that more than half of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects. Now, again, in a very important paragraph here, in a limited number of incidents, UAP reportedly appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. Now, that's, the money there, and that's, are these alien spaceships or advanced technology from other countries? They continue, these observations could be the result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misperceptions and require additional rigorous analysis. So basically they're saying that there are situations that seem to be amazing, but they can't tell if they actually are. They can't tell if they are, in fact, sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misperceptions. Now, compare that to the previous paragraph, where most of them actually represent physical objects because they were on multiple sensors. I think it's pretty clear that these ones that they're talking about, the UAP that reportedly appear to exhibit unusual flight characteristics, are not included in those probably physical objects, because if they were registered on multiple sensors, that would prove pretty much without the shadow of a doubt that they were in fact exhibiting unusual flight characteristics. So it seems fairly likely that this paragraph refers to things that were essentially single sensor or single eyewitness account reports. It's not entirely clear, but it would seem to be that way for if you combine the information in these two paragraphs. There are probably multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting. Well, yes. This is true, and this is something I've been saying for months, if not years, and that we don't just have one thing. We don't just have UAPs. What are they? We have, here's a UAP report, here's a different one, here's another one, here's another one. There could be all kinds of different explanations. And they've categorized them into five broad categories, 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, US development programs, foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all other bin. UAP clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to US national security. And that's obviously something that's very important, and hence we need to look into what these UAP actually are, these various different UAP. Safety concerns primarily center on aviators contending with an increasingly cluttered air domain, which really is the first of the 5 categories, the airborne clutter. UAPs would also represent a national security challenge if they are foreign adversary collection platforms. Those are spy things. I mean, they're really talking about spy drones there, for example, or balloons. Or provide evidence a potential adversary has developed either a breakthrough or disruptive technology. That's if they do actually, in fact, demonstrate unusual flight characteristics, which we can't say for sure because we don't have enough sensor data. And then they talk about consolidation of reports across the government, standardized reporting, etc. would be better. And that some of these steps are resource intensive and would require additional investment. So that's just a call for more money for the UAP task force, which, so there's lots of real issues that have been identified in this report that need to be addressed. If something's unidentified, let's figure out how to identify it. But we don't have evidence of advanced technology. We have things that possibly indicate it, but more study is needed. And they never mentioned aliens. So it's not even really a consideration there. They were tentatively saying maybe a foreign adversary might have leapfrogged us, but that's only a few little cases, and we don't really have multiple sensor data there, except maybe in 1 or 2 cases with this radio frequency stuff that we measured, but not a lot going on. Just unidentified flying objects.